Okay, I'm in the middle of putting together the case for the Banana Pi Pro, and I thought I'd show you a few little tricks. The instructions really aren't particularly good, but let me show you what I'm doing right now. Is these pieces all have protective covers on them, and you need to get the protective covers off. In order to make them nice and clear. And what I'm using is I'm using a toothpick. What you can do is you can rub the toothpick to sort of break the film a little bit. The toothpick is not going to damage the acrylic. So this is one way you can get the protective covering starting to come off, and then you can use your fingernail to pull the rest of it off. It actually makes it pretty easy. Okay, the other thing about this kit is it really doesn't label the parts very well, so you have to sort of puzzle it out. And I'm going to show you the part of the bottom board for the board itself is this piece, and the way you can tell about this is that these two holes are going to be match up with the board, and as a result, you'll see that this is the piece that needs to go for the circuit board. Of course, this is going to be the top. It's labeled with the logo Banana Pro, so you know that's going to be the top. These pieces, this piece actually goes on one end of the board. It's let me see if I can get this thing in focus a little bit here. This is the piece that goes on the side where you have the SATA cable. Again, it sort of matches up a little bit. This also is a piece that goes on the other end where you have the USB ports and the Ethernet port. And that's pretty easy to identify. So those three pieces have to do with the board itself. The other piece is this piece. This is going to be the bottom piece. The holes are farther apart here and here, so they don't match up with the circuit board, but they do match up with the hard disk that I'm going to put in on the lower bay of this little case. And this happens to be a Seagate hybrid SSD drive. It's half SSD. I think it has like 16 gigs of SSD, and then a terabyte of the spinning rust, as they say. And these holes match up with the mounting holes for the disk drive. Okay, I'm actually assembling the case for the Banana Pro kit, and okay, we got the board sitting here. I've already put the small standoffs on the base plate for the board, but I've discovered actually the simplest way to proceed on this is, first of all, you need to flip the board over, and right in this area is where the Wi-Fi connection is, and it's the easiest is to connect the Wi-Fi antenna to that before doing any further assembly. Okay, I got the Wi-Fi antenna fixed, and you can see it right there. Unfortunately, my light is not great here, but right here it's connected to the board. It's on the back side of the board with all the printed circuit details are there, and we'll be turning this upside down to mount the board. But you definitely need to install this first. Okay, I got the board now mounted to the base plate and with the Wi-Fi antenna. And in order to put the sides on, you're really going to have to play around with it. I've tried several times to install this. And there's only one right way that it installs. It's better to install the long sides first, that's these sides, and then the ends. Just because the way things fit together, it's the easiest. So I'm going to go ahead and do that off camera. And but you will have to play around to get it all to fit in. But I found that this is the best way to do it, is to get the base plate ready, install the Wi-Fi antenna, and then start putting in the sides. Okay, we got the board or the sides put in, and if you notice, it's currently the antenna is right here. I sort of fished it around a little bit so it fits into a space, and we're going to be mounting that up here shortly once we put the this top piece on. And basically, the hole that it goes in is the smaller of the two holes. Oh yeah, I should mention one thing. We need to put these pieces back in. That's the little standoffs. So I'm going to be putting those in. And I found actually the easiest way to do it is to put one of the screws that's supplied with the case into one end. And then you can use a Phillips screwdriver to sort of screw them in place. One other little tip, I found that it's worth putting a rubber band around while you're working on this, putting in the longer standoffs and before you put the top on. It's really kind of fall apart very easy on you. So it's worth putting a rubber band around at this point. And so we'll continue assembling, and next I'll come back and show you how to put the top on. Okay, we got the top on, and if you can, let me see if I can zoom in here a little bit. You can see the top's on. It's you have to again fiddle around to get the little pieces to match up with the holes. But right now what we're going to do is start using we're going to be using these screws. There's two different color screws in this package, and we're going to, let me see if I can put it down here and show you the screw. It's the one that is the shiny one. The other one is this one. Let me put that down too. If you notice, the other one is, let me see if I can get a good picture of it. It's hard to see, unfortunately, here. It's a dark color flathead Phillips screw, and that's going to be used to mount the hard disk on the bottom plate. And actually also, okay, we got the top screwed in. You can see the screws here. Thought occurred to me that it's probably worth, this hole is real close to the screw you've been working on. Might be worth to cover that with a piece of Scotch tape temporarily, just so you don't have to disassemble this thing if the screw drops into the box. Just something to save. I noticed I did forget one screw here. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we'll come back and talk about the hard disk. Okay, so these are the pieces we have left to build the case for the hard disk. And to assemble this is going to be a little bit difficult again, because what it's going to be depending upon, the sides are going to hook onto these pieces on the upper case, and then these are going to hold the ends in it by pressure in place. And so it's going to be a little bit difficult for this case to be assembled. It all has to be done at the same time. But the first step is to mount the hard drive onto the bottom plate. Okay, it's the bottom hard disk assembly is just about done. If you notice, I have one end here attached, and the other end is not attached. And the reason is that by doing it that way, it gives you a little support to put the top case and lock that into the bottom case. So you shouldn't try and assemble the whole thing at once. You should probably just do one end and then put it onto the upper case attach it to the upper case right here and here, 2 little connectors. And now I'm going to put the final piece on, and we'll see what we have. Okay, all the pieces are assembled. I want to give you one tip on the bottom. Is the end pieces, one end piece has a section that allows you to plug in the SATA cables and the power cables, and the other one is solid. So make sure that you put the solid piece in first and on the right correct end of the bottom case. I actually had to remove it and put it on the correct end. Just something, a little tip to so you don't have to redo it. It's not too bad to get the plate off, but it just delays the project. Okay. Well, my case is disassembled because rather than those little plastic spacers being feet, they are standoffs. They need to go inside the case rather than outside the case, and they're really required to raise the disc up from the base plate. Otherwise, you can't plug in the SATA cable, and that's how I discovered it. I tried to plug in the SATA cable, and it was off-center from the opening in the case. So I'm going to go ahead and put them in as spacers rather than feet, and reassemble the box, and I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, I got the unit reassembled, and we got the SATA plug is now centered with the opening, and the other end is of course closed, and we have this raised up a little bit off the bottom plate, if you can notice that. So it looks like we're all set, and we're going to go ahead and plug in the SATA cable. And I will mention a couple things that I've decided to do here. One is, if you notice that SATA cable I have on this side, I think it'll make it a little easier to run the cable and it won't block. These things here are not as important, but then we have the SATA cable over here, so it should be able to go into this area, and then it totally frees the Ethernet and the USB ports to be open, so there's no chance of cables coming across here. Just a little idea that I had. We'll see how it works out. Okay, so this is what it looks like right now. We got the SATA cable and the power cable plugged into the main board, and we have it plugged into the hard disk at the bottom. I'm not real pleased with the the way that this cable looks, but it's for a basically put this together for a total of about $160, $80 for the kit and $80 for the hard drive. It's not too bad. It would have been nicer if there was some better approach to connect the hard drive and the board, but in any event, that's what we got. I might actually put this in a larger box, but that's all I'm going to do for this video. As you know, this kit really is not well documented, and so I hope this video helps you if you decide to get one of these kits from Raspberry Pi Cafe. It's more than likely worth your money, but it doesn't have very clear documentation. Okay, thanks a lot.